Pete, we often see you on one side of the clinician-patient interaction, and I'm sure as a human you have experienced pain before. Can you tell us about some of your experiences that really were learning opportunities for you?
Yeah, I've probably been fortunate and unfortunate, I suppose, around experience of pain. Probably my earliest experiences were falling out of a tree, landing on my back at a young age. Thought I broke my back. It was pretty scary. I did a lot of climbing of trees, breaking arms, broken toes, that kind of stuff. Just the normal stuff from running around and falling off bikes and having injuries. My biggest event, there were two key events. One was an injury when I was a student, a skiing injury where I had a really big fall, landed on my back. Again, I thought I'd broken my back. It was very painful. And that kind of evolved into a bit of a chronic pain problem where I had a lot of pain and my body was in protective mode, and I ended up overprotecting and guarding my body, and it was starting to get worse. And I was thinking, shit, I don't know if I can do my job. I would literally come home at the end of the day in so much pain. I was exhausted, and it was starting to interfere with my ability to sleep, and just the pain was spreading into my arms and down my back, and I was like, whoa, this is not cool. And the more I subconsciously, I think, protected myself, because I wasn't doing it consciously, the worse I was getting, and it started to get me worried. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this job. Manual therapy is quite demanding. And there was a kind of point where someone was like, why are you holding yourself so awkwardly? And I looked in the mirror, I'm like, I didn't really know what it was. And it was a tip point for me of just being aware of really how much I was protecting my body, and then learning to relax it and move it and get freedom back into it and confidence in it was my journey out of pain. So that's kind of like a really early pivotal point of my career around back pain. I then had another major injury, which was a major fracture of my wrist. And that's important for a clinician because I used my hands, and it was a compound fracture. Well, not compound fracture, it was an impact fracture of my radius, which pushed my radius out. It was deformity. It was fragmented, and I had surgery. I had 2 pins put on my wrist, and the surgeon literally said to me, "Your wrist is effed. It's good you don't have you got your academic job, because you won't be going back to clinical work." I was just like, what? This was many years ago. This was 98. And I remember thinking, that does not align with my beliefs. And I had this picture, I created a picture in my head of a healthy wrist. I remember it. I'd seen the scans, I'd seen how fragmented it was. And he said, look, your wrist was in pieces. I've tried to put it back as best I can, but it's screwed. And I had pins in my wrist, and I was in a splint. I was told to take 3 months off, and I was at home for a week, and I'm like, I've got to get out of here. I was going mad at home, and a lot of pain, and so I just went back to work. Went back to work with one arm, with a splint, and it's coming out of my arm. I remember bringing patients, and they're like, what's going on here? Like, they were coming in, and I've got my arm in a splint. And I realized I didn't really need 2 hands to work. And I think it forced me at that point to really lean into self-management as a strategy. It's almost like if you've got an obstacle, you create an opportunity, and I create an opportunity. So I was like, facilitating stuff, teaching self-management all around that time, around my early career. and then I just made my wrist move. I remember it used to crunch and grind, and my wife would be going, for God's sake, give your wrist a break. It was chronically swollen, and it was like, and I thought, I'm just going to carry on. I went back to work. I just kept on doing everything, and it was really, every night it was hot and swollen. I put an ice pack on it. Couldn't sleep. Just carried on. And after 2 years, pain completely went away. And I have a perfect wrist, which is unbelievable. And I didn't know if it would ever get better. And I thought, well, I'm going to stick to the things I value. I love work, and I'm not going to let my wrist stop me working. So I was working in spite of pain. But the eventual point was like work without pain.
Yeah.
And now I'm mountain bike, I can use my arms, and my wrist is not a problem. I have full range of movement. I've never rescanned it, and I don't really want to. But that really taught me something in my career. That taught me that even when you're damaged and you're being confronted with negative health information, a positive mindset And a behavioural response can get you out of trouble.
And a goal.
And and a goal. And that created a deep sense of positivity around the human body, I think. I wanted to labour on too many events because I've had a number of other ones, but probably the other really big one was a few years back when I got transverse myelitis. And that really knocked me over, where I lost sensation in both my legs, ended up at the hospital with scans and a lot of diagnostic threat. You know, it was a brain tumour, it was a stroke, it was Guillain-Barré, it was MS, it was like, what was it? That was really scary because it was so like chronic pain in my body. I understood this was something I had no understanding of. I didn't know what the hell that was. And the sequelae of that was like exhaustion, just massive fatigue, and then neuropathic pain. And that was something completely different. That was like constant, non-remitting, burning, exhausting pain that just absorbed all my mind. It was so tiring. And I remember working, and I just kept working. I went back to work. Because I'm like, I'll go mad if I don't. Went back to work, kept on doing my job. And I remember being at work, listening to patients, and having a way deeper empathy, like talking about how exhausting pain is. I'm like, you bet it is. As my feet were burning up. And I remember talking to the neurologist and like, wow, we can put you on Lyrica and all these drugs. I don't want the drugs. I'm just going to get on with it. And I just had, again, they were like, oh, well, this is probably a lot. I'm like, I don't know about that. So I just got really fit, really healthy, you know, looked after my sleep, all the things you talked about. And slowly that pain has subsided. Now, do I get pain in my legs? You bet I do. The intensity, the exhaustion of it, the severity of it, way less. But it emerges at times in my life when I'm overcooking myself. I'm tired, I'm run down, I'm under stress. And so it's my little reminder to kind of care for my health. And so I kind of reflect on those experiences. They're all quite different, but they fundamentally have given me a deep empathy for people who we see with pain. And I have pain in my body pretty much every day, and it's a reminder. But it doesn't define me, it doesn't limit me, it doesn't dictate what I do, it doesn't bother me apart from reminding me to care for myself. But I'm really grateful for those opportunities of learning, because they have given me a deeper, you know, understanding and knowledge of what we deal with and what people deal with every day.
Wonderful. Thank you.